Welcome back. If you've been following this journey, you already understand that this is not just a channel. This is a mindset, a different way of thinking, a different way of building. And if this is your first time here, you're welcome. You're not here by accident, because here we don't chase noise. We build value quietly, intentionally, and with purpose. Now, let's talk about something most people get completely wrong. There is a silent tragedy happening across Africa, not because we lack intelligence, not because we lack resources, but because we speak before we build. Ideas are announced, plans are shared, dreams are exposed before they are strong enough to survive the world. And in that moment, pressure begins. Doubt enters, jealousy watches, distraction grows, and what could have been powerful dies quietly. But what if the problem is not the dream? What if the problem is exposure? Because everything that grows first grows in silence. No noise, no applause, no announcement. Just discipline, focus, and protected execution. The greatest strategies in history were never announced. They were built, refined, strengthened in silence. If Africa must rise, then Africa must learn to build in silence, because not everything that matters needs to be seen before it is ready. Welcome to the Rising Tide.
What if I told you that the key to Africa's rise isn't found in loud announcements or big press conferences, but in a radical act of silence? Today, we're exploring a powerful, maybe even counterintuitive idea that to truly build a future, we first have to learn to work quietly. This quote, man, it gets right to the heart of the problem. We are a continent that often celebrates the harvest before we've even cleared the land. We announce these incredible empires while they're still just whispers of a dream. And in doing so, we make them vulnerable to the very forces that can tear them down. So how do we break this cycle? Well, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll unpack the poison of all this noise. Then, we'll look at its roots in our political systems and reveal the powerful strategy of silence. We'll check out real-world examples, face some difficult truths, and finally bring it all down to what it means for you. Okay, let's get right into it. The core problem is this. Noise doesn't build nations. Discipline does. Announcing your plans too early just makes them vulnerable. It gives your critics a target before you've even had a chance to build your defenses. See, the crucial point here is that true strength isn't forged in some flashy press conference. It's built in the quiet, relentless execution of a vision that becomes so strong, so real, that it's unstoppable by the time it's finally seen. But why? Why is there so much noise in the first place? Why this culture of overexposure, of shouting everything from the rooftops? To understand that, we've got to look at the political systems that have been surprisingly resilient since independence. So there is this term, politics of the belly. What it really describes is a system where power is based on personal patronage and networks. In an environment like that, a loud, ambitious project isn't seen as a public good. It's seen as a target, a new resource for those who profit from the way things are. Your dream becomes their next nail ticket. And this brings us to a really critical distinction. We often confuse governance, which is this clean, top-down, technocratic idea, with real politics. True politics is the messy, complex, bottom-up work of actually building systems on the ground with the people. Just focusing on governance is like drawing a beautiful map without ever setting foot on the territory. And here's what happens, right? When we talk instead of build, we create this vacuum. And that vacuum gets filled by external systems. We become dependent on aid and models that just weren't designed for our specific social and political realities. They simply don't fit. Just look at this image. This right here, this is what gets missed. This is the real on-the-ground economy where most people actually live and work. It's messy, it's complex, and it's built on local networks of trust. This is where the real resilience is, and it's a world that all those top-down plans and loud announcements completely fail to understand. Okay, so if noise is the poison, then what's the antidote? It's silence. But we're not talking about an empty, passive silence. No, we're talking about silence as a deliberate, powerful strategy. Silence isn't absence, it's preparation. It's the conscious choice to not take a public position before you're actually ready to defend it. It protects your idea from being defined, attacked, and dismantled before it even has a chance to take root. A perfect cultural example of this is the Rwandan concept of imihigo. It's not a public boast about what you plan to do, it's a performance contract with yourself. The accountability isn't to the announcement, it's to the results. You vow to deliver, period. And this kind of strategic silence, it does something else too. It creates space for what's called generative listening. Instead of making august noise for the people, you actually start listening with them. And that's how you build real consensus from the ground up, creating the foundation of support that's way stronger than any media campaign. But look, this isn't just some abstract theory. Let's dig into some incredible real-world examples where this principle absolutely changed the game. So, first, let's look at Tanzania. It built one of the strongest national identities on the continent, not through some big war of blood and ire, but through quiet, systematic policy. After independence, they deliberately mixed ethnic groups and established equal citizenship for everyone, weaving a unified national fabric without all the fanfare. Okay, but what about an even more extreme situation? Imagine trying to build something meaningful not just in a fragile state, but in a full-blown conflict zone, a place with lawlessness and civil war. How would you even start? Well, I'll tell you how you don't start with a press conference. You start quietly. In Somaliland, a man named Abdikadir Hashi Elmi heard a radio report about people having no place to stay. He didn't announce a grand vision. He just started shipping materials, piece by piece, one nail, one pipe at a time. And this timeline, it just says it all. The Mansour Hotel was built in phases, growing organically. It was financed from its own earnings, and its physical growth literally mirrored the slow, deepening roots of peace in the region. The hotel only grew as fast as stability did. By the time the world even noticed, it wasn't just a hotel, it was a symbol. It was a mind feeder that proved rebuilding was possible, inspiring the whole city to start investing in its own future, quietly and deliberately. Now, these stories are amazing, right? But these successes were not accidents. They were born from a deep understanding of some very, very hard truths that require immense discipline to face. Because Africa doesn't mean more talk, it means protected execution. See, the real work, it's internal. It's about overcoming a subculture of passive obedience where we wait for permission. It's about moving beyond the politics of belonging, building coalitions based on shared goals, not just shared bloodlines. And maybe hardest of all, it's about resisting that powerful temptation for instant gratification. And this might be the hardest truth of all. If you're building for the next 24 hours, go ahead, speak up. But if you are building an empire, a career, or a nation, you have to understand that the strongest structures are built where no one is watching. Real, lasting change you might not even feed in your lifetime. But look, this idea isn't just for presidents or big shot nation builders. Not at all. This silent revolution, it starts with you at the grassroots level. Think about this. An estimated 80% of the continent's economic resilience comes from the informal sector. It's not run by governments or big corporations. It's powered by small, local, quiet actions built on deep reservoirs of trust between people. This is where the real work gets done. So the question I want to leave you with isn't for some leader out there. It's for you. Stop announcing your plans to a world that isn't invested in your success. Master the art of quiet execution. Find your collaborators, build your foundation, and then let your results make all the noise. What will you build in silence?